Derp, 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 derp. Derp, 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 derp. Dun, 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 dun. Chasing the rabbit. Okay. My actual personal journal being on :B2. Is really a change. My muscle memory can feel it, but I'm doing enough videos here where I'm starting with loading the journal with my all command. It makes for the best experience if it drops right into the Wonderland rabbit. You can always switch to :B2 to do some personal journaling, starting out as if for yourself, the only audience, but then change your mind and extract a new public journal entry by copy and pasting between the two journals. Bam, public entry. Next step, do something that would be useful to almost all SEOs. Make something that has clear viral value, portable switch army SEO product, because anything can host LXD images, even Windows 10. If on Windows 11, then the graphics works without the extra X server trick you have to do on Windows 10. Why not just make a video out of it right now? Why not just make it your switch from Pyppeteer to Playwright? Explain that, and your testing steps along the way. Why not mention GPU utilization and the CUDA library and alternatives to it? Okay, so make it real. Let's go do a JupyterLab demo. This is my Windows desktop. This is my JupyterLab icon. When I double click that, JupyterLab comes up, or doesn't. I might have done a reboot recently, but when that happens, it means I have not clicked this icon yet. This starts an LXD image. Technically, it starts a WSL, a Windows subsystem for Linux image. It starts a instance of the Linux operating system under Windows, and then it starts an instance of the Linux operating system under the Linux operating system that's under Windows, and that's what you see here. Ubuntu at Jupyter. If I type screen ls, you'll see that there is a session called Jupyter running. If I type screen reattach to Jupyter, you'll see the output of the Jupyter program. So we'll throw that over here, and we'll go back here, and there's Jupyter running now. Oh, let's click over to that. I don't think I gave away too much. Frankly, it's none of your business. And what do I have here? That's, yeah, that is work on the email attachment I've been doing. And this is me switching over from something called Pyppeteer to something called Playwright. A little bit of backstory. Pyppeteer, Pyppeteer. There it is on GitHub, but I think it looks most interesting on the PyPy homepage. And that's surprising that's not one of the top ones there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over here and go pypi.org. And from there, I am going to say Pyppeteer, Pyppeteer. I think that's it. And already there's a little bit of a schism, right? There's a newer version, Pyppeteer 2, with an older date. And then there's a older version, January 11, 2022, with a newer date. And even the newer date is kind of old. So It does exist on GitHub too, and you can probably get newer versions on GitHub, but hey, who's going to do that when you can just pip install Pyppeteer? And it does a pretty competent job of creating a wrapper for the Puppeteer package on which it's based, Puppeteer, Puppeteer. It's a Node.js package, npm node or npm Pyppeteer, right? This is the main way this package is used. And this is the official version of the package from Google. Google puts out the npm JavaScript package, Puppeteer. Pyppeteer is an unofficial port to Python. And it gets out of sync sometimes. It really has difficulty staying up to date with Puppeteer, and Puppeteer now has difficulty staying up with Microsoft, who hired away the 2 lead developers from Puppeteer and put them to work on Microsoft Playwright, another way of automating browsers. Playwright enables reliable end-to-end testing for modern web apps. All right, so it's a testing thing, and it goes on with all this marketing stuff about how Playwright, yay, does everything Selenium does, but with a much higher level of reliability. No flaky tests. Gotta admire someone who takes, jabs at a competitor like that. Your tests are flaky. Selenium, it's saying there in hidden double quotes. So this thing that has basically forked from Puppeteer and had the resources of Microsoft thrown at it, including the original two of the lead Puppeteer developers, they were able to make a native Python package. So you can pip install Playwright. It might be pip install Microsoft Play. I look, check out those details, whatever. Let's see, Python, is there an install here? Get started. Installation, pip install. Oh, this is a PyTest Playwright. There's a little bit of a trap here. I am going to steer you away from the VS Code, right? So right there, you saw it. All roads lead to VS Code. Learning web browser automation is yet another road to VS Code. Beware. I'm taking you down the JupyterLab server on Linux route. We're running JupyterLab server on Linux, which is allowing us to reach it here. This has been set up, as explained in videos prior, as a Microsoft Edge installed app. This is just localhost :8888 as a web app, as an app installed on Windows 10 under their under the Edge install app install interface. So this is browser automation. Kernel, restart kernel and clear all outputs. This is just to keep things formatted pretty. And this takes a while, especially on the first time it's run after a system reboot or whatnot. Oh, look at that. Something go wrong. Yeah, sometimes things go wrong. It appears I may have discovered a source of true random. See, on the second go, oh, the browser appeared and disappeared. It's just closing too fast. I know what's happening. I just need to get rid of the close so that you can see the effect of what's happening here. This is a nice way to do it because there's your browser opened under automated control. Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. And I made it go to the Google homepage. And it's on the Google homepage as me, right? This is one of my Gmail accounts. And this is Linux under Linux Chrome under Windows. Linux Chrome under Windows is what you're looking at there. If I close that and run it again, it will open full screen because there's an argument being given. You saw it do that little pop. I'll push it back to half screen, but let's get rid of that sidebar. And now we can look at these things mostly side by side. We're importing a few things. We're importing async IO, not because it's necessary, but because of the API that I'm using, it needs to have async IO imported. Where am I actually using it? Oh, is there really no other use, no reference to it? That may be an extra import, an unnecessary import. Let's get rid of that for a moment. And when testing these things, it's always good to restart kernel and clear all outputs, right? Who wouldn't want to be looking at, and look at how the Chrome disappeared when I did that. There's some cool stuff going on here. There's some awareness, and I'm sure this awareness is about 1,000 times cooler on VS Code. They're going to make it a pretty good experience, and so you have to make the choice between the power tool and the old school, right? A lot of people are going to go the VS Code route, plugins out the wazoo. That's going to make some really interesting magic possible under your fingers and impress everybody and land the job, get a good, web dev job. It's a worthwhile path. One must cut their teeth. But then you realize sometimes dealing with things just as scripts that you run, like this, is nice too. Why would you not have this capability for yourself if it was there to be had? This isn't that much to look at and understand, yet here you go, controlling Chrome automations, right? Let's make that actually perform a search. I'm just setting the URL to google.com, but let's set it to actually perform a search. I believe that's Q equals, and I don't know. I probably won't show up on my name, so I'm going to throw Mike 11, and I'm going to put the extra SEO in there because, that congressman, man, he has dominated the SERP. So I do that. Linux Chrome comes to the front, and it has searched. Oh, look at that. It just filled it in. It did not hit submit on it. You don't want to restore pages. So that's interesting, isn't it? That makes it a bit harder to perform the search. You have to hit the search button. But that's perfectly doable. If what we need to do next, now is a good time to do a demonstration, is to click the Enter key. Yeah, we might even need to highlight that, highlight this object, inspect. And this is from, this will be interesting if the copy buffer is in common. This is from Linux Chrome, and I'm inside the Google, the Google, inspection tool, the Chrome inspection tool. And inspect. Sometimes you have to do it twice to get the right element highlighted. This here is going to have an XPath. Copy XPath. Maybe. Let's see. I'll just paste it in the journal for now to see if it's in my copy buffer. Look at that. There's an XPath. That is a remarkable thing, ladies and gentlemen. This is showing me that while I do Chrome browser automation work in the Linux version of Chrome, coming up from using Jupyter, to all appearances under Windows, this has the performance of a Windows app. Let me tell you, it does not feel like you're using something that in the background is hosted in a Linux way on a Linux server, except that your slashes when you use them are forward slashes. Here's the location of the Chrome exe, user bin Google-Chrome. Here's the location of user data. This is the magic line here. In order for it to be opened using a logged in account, right? For it to use browser settings, persistent stuff, so stuff that's persistent between logins. This knows it's me. I set the downloads directory. I think the default is already that and is correct. So, but then here's the URL that we're going to be visiting later on, and it's an async space with. So async is being imported here somewhere, is it not? Async with. Oh, yeah, that's a keyword built into Python now. That is not a function or anything. That does not need to be imported like the async IO library. You can just do async with, and then if you provide a name of something that is asynchronous mode aware, you are using two great tricks that work great together, maybe. You have asynchronous mode and the context manager. Whenever you see with, think context manager. See how both of these are green? Async with. So with on its own is some awesome magic. The indenting here says, I'm going to clean up after myself. And with asynchronous mode stuff, that's a pretty nice assurance. I like that assurance coming from the programming language, the operating system. You're doing concurrent stuff and you're using the context manager. When you leave that context, you are letting go of any resources you might be tying up because you hit a lot at a time because concurrent. So context manager together with async feels like a good idea. Now, that's like using an open command. When you see this, you think with open. So what comes next is file-like, but there's no path or parameters given. So we look at what async Playwright is. It is a sublibrary of the Microsoft Playwright async API. From playwright.async API import async Playwright. Wow. That is some big time abbreviation going on there. That is a fancy import statement such that you could use it this briefly. Async Playwright. What is that conceptually to me? What is it doing? Well, what it's not doing is creating the instance of the browser because that's done right here. And the instance of a browser comes from an instance of Playwright, which is awaiting the start method of this. Huh. Wow. So don't ask me to deeply explain this to you, but do know that when you're trying to do asynchronous mode and you are a humble sequential thinker in Python, such as myself, I do not quickly embrace asynchronous mode. I say that the complexity trade-off is not worth it unless you're scaling and funded and all that. But For most day-to-day work, sequential mode is just fine because computers are fast enough. But on those times when you do hit a bottleneck, you must use sequential mode, and APIs can minimize the pain. This is an example of that. So most of what you're seeing here is the fancy defining of a browser instance. It hasn't opened a page yet. The instance of the browser is still just something that's invisible and in memory. But it's using persistent context. So it knows that the first parameter, I gave it a key value parameter, but I could have just done this and put it in the first location because the, I believe, required positional first parameter is the path to where your user data is, because when you're in persistent mode, you're going to be saving stuff. You're going to be saving stuff to the hard drive using the web browser, because it's going to be a real web browser there, using the web browser's API, and what it does is it stores stuff to the hard drive. So this is that path to the stuff on the hard drive, which is fed as the first parameter, user data dir. The user data dir is the variable that contains the value home ubuntu.config/ Google Chrome, blah, blah, blah. And then headless is false, so you can see the browser. It's going to allow downloads to occur. I suppose as a security precaution. It might not. I'm not sure what the default is. The path to the Chrome executable. So instead of using the bundled Chromium, instead of using the Chromium that comes with Microsoft Playwright, I am using the Chrome exe that's located here, user bin Google Chrome. So it's real Chrome with one of my real Chrome user profiles. See, I loaded it separately, which is perfectly possible to do. If you just wanted to use Linux Chrome without the automation, I can close out of this. I was showing you server, Jupyter server, but I can open a new window to that and not confuse you with the keyboard combinations it would have taken to exit that. But here we are on the machine that's hosting this JupyterLab. This JupyterLab is doing its thing because this server is here. So we could just pip install stuff here if we wanted to. It shares the same requirements. Anything you do here is also done in the environment that is, that exists here, which you can see. How can you tell your environment? You can open a new terminal, right? So add, you can say terminal. And instead of all those, backslashes and stuff that you get in Windows, you can see here, this is very much a Unix, a Unix-like Linux path. Your tilde home, there's your repos directory, and that is the exact same as you see over here. See? Ubuntu at Jupyter, tilde/repos, ls. There's all the repos that I'm using over here and everywhere. So you see, it's kind of a nice unified approach. Linux all the way. Forget you're using Windows entirely. You're on Linux. Windows just happens to be the way the hardware boots up and the way that you get to Linux. NT, that's one of the things it's good at doing, letting operating systems run side by side. So why was I opening that over there? Oh, well, I might have been getting ready to make the point that doing this, and it's doing it, it's there in the background. I would open another tab inside of there. That's interesting. If I close out of that, run. Yep, there's the Google Chrome. I'll close out of that. Oh, I was going to click the submit button. I had copied that XPath and put it in my notebook. That's one thing, possibly. Page.click something XPath. I forget. I'd have to look at my instructions on exactly how to do that. And then I could take a screen snapshot. But I need to test Playwright. I need to test Playwright. I need to take it step by step and to do things. I want to be able to hit that submit button to perform the search, and I want to be able to take a screen snapshot of that. And I'm doing it in a way where you know that I'll be able to automate this and, run it independent of JupyterLab. It's not really a big step to imagine saving this as a .py file and running it here in exactly the same context, Python and then file name .py, and you would be running the same thing. Oh yeah, I was going to show you running Chrome. Google-Chrome. You can run Chrome, the Linux version of Chrome, separate from doing it from automation in here. I could just use Chrome for a while. I do believe I can do the same with the Linux version of Firefox. What happens if I Control-C here? Yeah, it goes away. That's interesting, isn't it? Firefox. I won't bother. I think I have a number of things installed in here. I'd have to get the exact file names to run them. But for Google Chrome, you saw that. That's the same one as I'm referring to in here. So running it from in here. Does that, right? There it is. And running it from out here does that. It's Linux graphics on Windows, right? Windows just supports Linux graphics if you know how to, or if you're on Windows 11, or you know how to set one of these bad boys up. That is a VCX SRV X Windows server. In previous videos, I cover this. So that's Linux graphics on Windows. No problem. Coming from a Linux container, an LXD container here, not from a direct Windows subsystem for Linux, but from a Linux that's buried one level deeper. So, small miracle. All right. So at some point, I'm going to assure that these Linuxes that are running in Linux on an LXD container under WSL support GPUs, graphics coprocessor units, particularly NVIDIA ones, when your hardware has it. Now, this hardware doesn't, all right? This other hardware that I have for various purposes sitting around does. I got a NVIDIA, I don't even know the models or anything. I should know because I made a popular video on updating its driver. GeForce something, 6100, I don't know. That's probably it. That sounds right. And when you have that, you can do some fancy data science, number crunching, neural network stuff, multi-layer simulated neural networks, maybe actually truly multi-layer, because that's the way GPUs work. The way the processors are made so it can calculate, polygons per second, however thousands or millions of polygons per second to do 3D shaded games and stuff. That same hardware is really good for machine learning, as it turns out, and that's fueling a lot of the revolution here. However, you need to crawl before you can walk. So while I'm on my way to that, I am modestly doing a little bit of Chrome automation here. So clicking. This is Playwright click button. Selectors. page locator, await page locator, something, click. Oh, it's a CSS path I should have had instead of a X path. I recognize those as CSS paths. So clicking the button might be as easy as this, but I should see if it has a an X path to it. Page locator, and it can just be a ID or something. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? So that's going to go right here. Oh, no, it's going to go after going to the page URL, right? So this is going to submit the search, but I have to change this to something that corresponds to the button, right? So in order to get that path, I will comment that out for a moment and run this again. And while that Chrome browser is open, I will right-click on submit button. Or now I will right-click on the field because I need to drop my cursor in there. I need to activate it, click it, and then I need to hit the enter key. So I'm going to have to simulate an enter keystroke. That's so interesting. Interesting, Google. You're making automation take some browser automation. Now, couldn't I have, what happens if I do hit enter? Do I just have the URL wrong? Yeah, I just have the URL wrong. I don't need to do any of that. If I have this part correct. Ugh, good grief. Well, I'm going to leave this commented out because why not? I need to get towards the real browser automation just because I'm not there right now. Oh, I lost it in my buffer. Or never had it in my buffer. I should look carefully and understand what it is I am copying. And that is interesting that, you know, this again is a miracle this is working, right? I'm going to do that, and I'm also doing Control-C. That is /search $Q equals. /search $Q equals. Where in the heck was I even needing this? Oh yeah, it was in Jupyter. Isn't Jupyter here? Yeah, it is. It's just because it opened full screen. I'm sorry, folks. I'll minimize it. Yeah, that's more like it. There we go. Almost there. There we go. All right. So now I'll close this one. And now I don't have to hit the search button at all because I have the search URL path right. And I didn't actually run it because I can see the 8 is still there. Although it feels like I did run it. Nope, there it goes. Yep, and the search is already executed. There's the congressman guy. And look at this. It has my full page height. I believe I have my default set to show top 100 or something. That's certainly more than top 10. And so when we take a screen snapshot, it's going to be an awesome screen snapshot. I'm going to be able to create a very tall PDF or a very tall PNG. I guess PNG would be my preference. I guess that compresses well for email and has a high compatibility with attempts to show it. But then I will send that to myself via email. I'll probably put SEO in there so I don't demoralize myself by how much my search engine rankings fell since several other Mike and Michael Levins have come onto the scene, very popular online. The congressman is just one. The other is this wonderful microbiologist. Wow, you know, his stuff is just spectacular about, you know, going beyond genetics and how living creatures express themselves from stuff that's much more robust than you would generally think. A certain intelligence level that exists down at the cellular level, not just cognitive in our brains. There's a lot of thought-like stuff. But anyway, you go watch him, Michael Levin. But for me, tracking movement and stuff, I'll probably do SEO. I'll probably do some other stuff that I should probably track, Pippulate and Linux. A few of my made-up words during my time in the industry. Now, I have to get back my Linux on GitHub. The one that's shown here is someone else's because I accidentally deleted Linux out of GitHub temporarily. I put it back. I lost all my stars, but now the Linux coming up in GitHub is this person. So, you know, at least I've got first position, second position, and all that. Oh, gotta head out. Talk to you later.